How can you gain muscle only doing body weight exercises? And is it even possible? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm Jerred Moon. So let's dive right into it. To answer the question, yes, it's absolutely possible. So I know personally when I was first starting to do more body weight stuff, I was coming off of a lot of hypertrophy training, a lot of powerlifting. So just building muscle, building strength, a lot of barbell work, and moving to body weight in any capacity, in all honesty, made me a little bit fearful. And I'm not scared of the body weight exercise. I was scared of losing a ton of muscle mass or losing a ton of strength because I thought that that's what it would do. But if you look at a gymnast, they're pretty jacked. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe not their legs, but most of the time they're really jacked. They're very strong. And that's because it's a very specific type of training. And when I saw that, I started to look into more things and I was like, well, maybe you need to train like a gymnast. But when you look into training like a gymnast, it's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard. I mean, a gymnast is just one of those type of activities. And if you pursue that as a fitness, it's like golf. You'll never master it. It takes hours and hours every single day. And it's just not going to be the cup of tea for most people. You can't really train like a gymnast. You can't sit in your garage or your gym and do these like slow motion exercises for 3, 4 hours a day and try to master them. But you can take the principles from a gymnast and you can take the principles from, gaining strength, power lifters, and you can take the principles from bodybuilders, hypertrophy, muscle growth, and put them into a solid body weight training program and still gain muscle and maintain your strength. And once I kind of realized that and I took some of the simple principles, I've always been able to cycle on to body weight style training and gain muscle mass and also maintain my strength. And I honestly just feel so good when I go through a short body weight cycle. I tend to do this a couple times a year. I might just throw in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks of body weight only training. I say body weight only. I will probably throw a vest in there, or I might even add a kettlebell to tax my legs a little bit more if things are getting too easy as I progress through my program. But it's predominantly 95, 98% body weight when I do go through these cycles. And the framework that I use for doing body weight exercises and still gaining muscle mass and maintaining my strength is I follow the CVD method. So C stands for controlled, V stands for volume, and D stands for dynamic. This is how we include and program all of our body weight style workouts when we have them in our own programming. And even in our one-man system program that we have, these are the principles that we follow. So the first one, let's go over it, control. This is just slow and controlled movements. So if you think of doing a push-up, you do this push-up 3 seconds on the way down, 3 seconds on the way up. It's just slow and controlled. Now, there's no magic to the 3 seconds I just said. Most of the time, I don't even really count. I'm just going slow and controlled until I hit pretty close to muscle failure going slow and controlled. Like I wouldn't be able to do another 1 or 2 reps. And you're going to see that throughout my conversation here, throughout this podcast, is taking things to failure. Because what's great about bodyweight training is you can take almost every set to failure and you'll regenerate really fast. Like you'll be able to take a short break and then be able to do more push-ups. And that's what's awesome about it, because if you're not necessarily trying to just, get stronger on a barbell, like the next set, you don't have to do the same amount of reps as long as you're getting to failure. And with barbell training, going to failure can be incredibly taxing, and doing it over and over again can really wear on your body, but it's not the same when you do that with bodyweight training. So under this slow and controlled, the first part of the method, the C, you're increasing time under tension. So that's the principle behind it. And that's one of the greatest principles in being able to gain muscle is time under tension. Whether that tension is through slow and controlled bodyweight movements, maybe you throw a bodyweight vest on, or whether it's slow and controlled with a barbell, dumbbell or kettlebell, it's one of the greatest principles for gaining muscle mass. And you absolutely can do it with just your body weight. So performing exercises slowly, it increases the time under tension. And the extended tension can enhance muscle hypertrophy by engaging muscle fibers more thoroughly and promoting greater muscle damage, which means when repaired, it leads to growth. So the first thing is you just want to increase your time under tension, slow and controlled. You don't even have to worry about a rep scheme, really. I'm just going to keep utilizing the push up as the example. If you did some push ups and you just do them slow and controlled, you do like I said, maybe 3 seconds on the way down, 3 seconds on the way up. Maybe it's 4 seconds, maybe it's 1 second, whatever you can handle. And you do about 10 reps. You're not going to be able to do a ton of reps. Maybe you get to 15. And then you'll notice the more sets you do, you're doing fewer and fewer, but you're getting all that time under tension. And that's going to be huge for gaining muscle with a bodyweight exercise. Now moving to volume. So that's V. Volume is just regular sets and reps. I really think to gain muscle, you also just need volume. You just need more volume on, whatever you're doing, going back to the push-up. You're doing regular speed movements, but you're doing higher volume. And again, body weight exercise is great for doing higher volume. Barbell can be taxing, can break you down. But when you're doing with body weight, you're just doing regular speed movements with high volume. So going back to the push-ups, you'd be doing it at a normal pace, but with increased repetitions, and you're going to get more workload on your muscles. So what this high volume training does is it leads to metabolic stress, which is another key factor in muscle growth. And when you start depleting your energy stores, you're causing a buildup of metabolites, and these will stimulate muscle adaptation. And that's what you want. So we're using all the principles to do body weight, but still gain muscle mass. So what does this look like? Well, if I was to do my controlled, say I do 10 slow and controlled push-ups, really slow on the way down, really slow on the way up, and then I wait, I recover a little bit. Now I'm going to move to my volume. I'm doing all this in a single training session. I'm not spreading this out throughout the week, because another thing is you can recover like an animal from body weight exercises after you get accustomed to them. And then after I recover a little bit from the slow and controlled, I'm going to go to volume. And then when I'm doing volume, instead of 10 or 12 slow and controlled, I'm doing 30, 40 regular push-ups. I'm just hammering them out. It's also good just to be getting better at push-ups. So that's the control, that's the volume, that's C and V. And then getting to D is dynamic. I really like throwing in dynamic to any program just because I think it helps you maintain athleticism in your training. And I think that's super important. I think losing that dynamic element, losing your athleticism it's really sad. Being able to jump and sprint and run as a human being is great. And I think people should try and maintain it as long as they can, but it also plays a part in building muscle. So when you're doing dynamic movement, you're incorporating explosive or plyometric exercises. And what this does is it recruits fast twitch muscle fibers. And fast twitch muscle fibers actually have a higher potential for growth compared to slow twitch fibers. So dynamic movements can improve muscular power and contribute to overall muscle development by developing those type 2 muscle fibers. And again, it just helps you maintain that athleticism, that usability of your muscles, not just having the big muscles. It's the muscles for go, not just for show, right? So if you can add those. Now, what does that look like if we get to the push-up? Well, you could do something like the clapping push-up. I'm not a huge fan of the clapping push-up these days because I feel like it can put a lot of pressure on the wrist, but plate push-ups are my favorite. That's what we call them. So if you were to get down into the push-up position and you could put like a 45-pound plate or 10-pound plate, like a bumper plate, on the outside of your palms. So your palms are on the ground. These plates are on the outside. You're going to push up as hard as you can to where you're going to get off the ground, and then you put your hands on the plates. And then you step down right hand, step down left hand, come down, push up as hard as you can to where you're actually coming off the ground and your hands are landing on these plates. That's my favorite way to do it with push-ups. And you can do this if you're doing squats for your legs. You can do jump squats. If you're doing pull-ups, you could just do quick pull-ups is what I think a lot of people need to work on before they get any, start doing pull-ups with bands attached to the ground or anything like that. You just do a really fast pull-up, reset, do another really fast pull-up. So just getting in that dynamic, fast movement is really important. And so if you can do these 3 things, you can have slow and controlled movement, you can have volume, and you can have dynamic movements in a bodyweight exercise program. You're taking all the principles from all these different areas, and you are going to gain muscle mass. And you're even going to maintain your strength. But here's the deal. I mentioned that you have to take a lot of things to failure. In the dynamic portion, you do not need to take it to failure. Like if you're doing 3 explosive plate push-ups, 4, 5, whatever, you're fine. You want to get that power development. You want to get some increased, type 2 muscle fibers, but you don't need to take those to failure. Taking anything dynamic to failure is actually a little bit more dangerous, can lead to injury. But when it comes to volume and time under tension, absolutely take those things to failure. So don't get too hung up on how many reps should I do? Well, if we're talking about gaining muscle, almost all the research points to how lifting to failure or exercising to failure is what you need for that metabolic demand to stimulate that muscle growth. Because if I tell you go do 10 slow and controlled push-ups, that's incredibly easy for you. You need to really challenge yourself. So taking it to failure or maybe 1 rep in reserve is where you need to be when you're doing the time under tension and the volume sets, but not the dynamic stuff. So now if you're focusing on how you're doing the movements, meaning I'm taking them to failure, I'm really focused on slow and controlled, and you're doing these 3 different things, slow and controlled, volume, and dynamic, you will absolutely succeed in your bodyweight training program. So yes, you can gain muscle while doing bodyweight exercises. You just have to focus on the CVD method and also focus on how you do the movements. That's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.